All right. Well, thanks so much, Karlyn, and everybody for having me up here. And for all my friends in Minneapolis and elsewhere, if you have a chance, you got to come up to Washburn and check out Karlyn's studio and her place. It's an amazing facility with, and Karlyn's an amazing woman with tons of inspiration and energy and just a plethora of ideas. So it's just been, thanks so much, and I'm so glad I get to share a little bit about myself and my paintings. I have a few paintings here that I'll show you quick, and then I'll do a demonstration trying to show you how I got the effects I got on this painting. But should I just run through the paintings real quick?
Sure.
All right, so here's something I'm going to play around with today. Here's another example. I'm going to give try and demonstrate how I get the textures of these trees and the effect of the mist. Here's an actual painting. Those were reproductions. Here's an actual painting with that effect. When I first started painting, I took a week-long course with Gordon McKenzie up in Canada, and kind of taught me how to create lost edges, which helps get that effect of mist. And this is just I taught a workshop last Saturday, and so we worked on this painting here. So I'll try and demonstrate something like this real quick. When I entered the American Watercolor Society show, I tried to put my best foot forward. And this is actually one of the paintings. This is if you're familiar with Minneapolis, they have the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. And every autumn they have a pumpkin display. And this is a reference, was a pumpkin display inside the Arboretum. And this painting is based on that. And I sent this out to the American Watercolor Society. This also was another painting that was accepted in the American Watercolor Society, and this is another painting I did based off of reference in the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. They have a dahlia experimental garden, and so these paintings were done by placing some masking down. Both the pumpkin and the bee dahlia painting has some masking on them. I did some pourings across them, and then I took the masking off and did some glazing. This is something I'll kind of demonstrate later on today, is how to create these misty effects on the lake. And this is actually won Best in Show this year at the Minnesota Watercolor Society exhibition. And just another example of creating mist on a lake, one of my first ones. And another one, I can't get enough of misty lakes.
I'm with you.
And creating the sun blasting through the trees is so easy and so fun. Yeah. This is, so I live in Twin Cities area, and I used to live in Excelsior, and they have the old log theater, and next to the old log theater is this little cabin. And I painted that little cabin next to the old log theater, just walking down the road after a winter storm, and I saw this, and then popped in a deer there. So same kind of thing, masking and some pouring.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Can't live in Minnesota without painting loons and misty lakes.
Oh, yeah.
And here, right down the road, is the Apostle Islands in Bayfield. And so I visited Bayfield and did the kayak trip, and I was in the kayak taking this photo with my $1,000 camera, hoping not to get it too wet. And then next year, of course, I went in the Boundary Waters and tipped my canoe and lost that camera. And spent the night in the mud, in the rain. Plenty of company. I had lots of mosquitoes to keep me company as I tried to dry things off on the Boundary Waters. I did a 9-week backpack trip through Europe, and this is Slovenia, Zagreb, I think it's called. So painting I did based off a photo in there. And of course, where would this be? So another painting I did based off a photo off that trip. This is a painting, again, the masking and pouring. And if you have any questions or anything, or want me to talk about anything about how I did any of these, I'd share. I'm open. I'm an open book. But this is a painting I did based off of a photo right where I lived in the Excelsior area. I walked out and was taking photos of the shadows, and then when I walked back, I looked back and I saw my footprints leading off, and I said, "Oh, what a great,
Yeah.
entry into the painting, and then I just popped a moose in there, and I said, this will work.
Wow.
So the foreground snow with that light and stuff like that, that's not masked, just the trees are masked.
No, this is, everything that you see white has been masked.
Okay.
So yeah, all those, and this is a huge painting, 22
Yeah.
by 30. This is just a reproduction,
Okay.
and even popped in some mask in here to give the feeling of breaks in the trees. And then of course after I removed the masking, and there was all this little white around the footprints was masked.
Wow.
I had to soften all that. So yeah, that took a night or two, I think. No, I probably spent like a good week or two playing around with that.
Have you ever tried doing it without masking the softer areas? I think you could do it by using colors that don't move in water.
Yeah, yeah, you'll have to show us.
Tell you about that. And see, these are the colors that we talked about yesterday.
Yes,
That we put,
that's right.
I put that behind Rachel's portrait. That's incredible.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, the pouring, I love a lot of these paintings were done with, the pouring. So this is the one that this painting won the High Winds Medal at the American Watercolor Society this year, the show. So I went off to New York and I met Tony Bennett was there, and it was great. That was like the highlight of the whole trip.
Wow.
But yeah, so I masked the whites and masked some whites into some of the pumpkins, and then I did pourings across it, and then started layering glazes and negative painting, and then took the masking off.
How did you learn about the pouring?
So that's a Roland Roy craft was my introduction to pouring.
To pouring,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Or maybe it might have been neat angle. Yeah.
What is pouring?
Yeah, what is
What is pouring?
So pouring is, well, and a lot of times I say pouring, but I actually don't pour, but, so it's protecting the whites. I mean, what I do is I protect the whites with some kind of a frisket or masking fluid, kind of a rubber cement type material.
Yeah.
And then I wet the painting, and then I either actually take a container with some pigment that's been like consistency of milk and pour it on, and then tilt the board around and let it flow around, and then pour other colors, or let it dry and then pour other colors and get like a glazing effect. Or I'll just drop it in with a brush instead of pouring. That's what I typically do, is I just take a brush full of charged with that consistency and drop it in with my brush and then tilt it around.
Well, you're using pure pigment then?
It was diluted to the consistency of milk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And usually primaries. In fact, one of my guest artists is Joy Moon, and she shows the complete technique. It's about a 2-hour presentation. She does a complete full sheet painting of apples at a state fair, some with nuts on them. And she does the whole thing by pouring primary colors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I actually-
turning, it's beautiful.
I actually had the colors, I think, over on my table over there. I just have some takeout containers I get from a restaurant, and I put in squirted like an inch of color in there and dilute it to the consistency of milk. And then I can either dip my brush in there, or I can actually pour from there. But Nita Engel and Roland Roycraft, they're going from like right from their palette, from a butcher tray, and pouring right from their palette. So, either way, yeah. But it was the primaries, yeah. It was
It's absolutely
like
beautiful.
a lemon yellow or a Windsor yellow, cobalt blue or ultramarine blue, and then like a Windsor red. So the 3 primers, yeah, to get these effects. And this is actually, I was, so one of my first influences, I had, Gordon McKenzie was a big influence, and then I was looking at books like Nita Engel and Roland Roycraft, and Nita Engel had this great picture of buildings going off in the mist. And this is, so I did that 9-week backpack through 9 countries a few years ago, and I went through Rothenburg, Germany. This is a kind of medieval city, and so this was done with multiple masking and pourings to get that misty effect. You got to take your group there sometime. That's a beautiful
yeah.
place.
Well, oh gosh, yes, look at this.
This is a painting I just recently did actually, and it's at the Minnesota State Fair right now. And I was, again, traveling through Europe, and I was at the Vatican, and I saw this great statue with the light coming across, and I thought that would make a beautiful painting. I think that's the last one, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, don't we
Thanks so
have
much.
an event to look forward to?
So I did a workshop last Saturday on this subject, a monochromatic misty lake scene, and tried to just give the impression of some waves You can make your waves more defined if you'd like to, but if at all possible, it's great if you can let the watercolor medium work its magic and just give that impression. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the watercolor gods are on my side today. And we'll see what kind of mess we can create. All right. So first thing I need to do is we'll do this kind of, we're
She's the
kind of,
artistic director.
we are going to do this painting together. It's a team approach. So first thing we do is we create a sky, and I'm not sure how we're running this little demonstration, but I'm going to have to dry in between a couple of the sections. So we may, I don't turn the camera on and off. I'm not sure how that works. We're just punting. All right. So I like to start with a wet sky. Well, I've done, you know, sunsets and sunrises, and had light blasting through trees. So you have all kinds of artistic liberties, but we will try and do something like this today. All right. So I'm just going to grab Payne's Gray and just have some fun here. Maybe I'll put a little ultramarine blue with that. And let's see. We'll get it flowing across. See what kind of mess we can make here. Whoop. I guess we're going to have some red in there. Where'd that come from? Well, it's what it wanted to do. Happy accident. All right. And take one of Karlyn's tissues. We will probably be the best part of the painting. So we got a nice soft sky in the back. We're going to have enough texture with all the trees and maybe some waves that will have enough interest elsewhere in the painting where we don't need a really crazy, wild, stormy, cloudy sky in this particular piece. We'll just keep it nice and soft. I'm just going to tone the bottom here with some color. Just got my Payne's Gray. You can see I like to work really carefully. All right. The first two rows might want to be careful. Because I haven't even started getting crazy yet. This is Dave under control. I'm just getting warmed up here.
Looks great.
All right, so we toned the bottom. So we kept some white in here, so this will be kind of our area of interest. I like to keep a nice big area of white where I'm gonna maybe put some canoers or some geese coming through or eagles swooping down. And we'll do one more thing. We'll put in the suggestion of some distant trees way out back there. So just real gently dropping in some color here. Payne's Gray, ultramarine blue, and over up on this side as well. Angling down to our area of interest. And get a thirsty brush, which is a brush that's been wet, dried, soften that bottom edge. I would love to splatter some water and get some more texture and stuff, but right now I can't mess up that sky. So that is the first step. Where am I grabbing this color from? That's all right. Another happy accident. All right. So now I need to dry this, and then I will continue by putting in some mid-ground trees. All right. Dry time. All right. So now we've got at least the sky area bone dry, because I'm going to put in some mid-ground trees here. All right. just checking to see I'm not forgetting anything. So I think I'm gonna paint some mid-ground trees, and I'm gonna paint the waves. And that'll be really wild. Okay, so for the mid-ground trees, I have a tool that I sell. It is a wedge of a sponge that I cut off of this nice cellulose sponge. I sell these for $50, or you can get it at the grocery store for like 20 cents, either way. Anyway, so I just cut out, you can see where I just cut off a little section there, a little triangular piece. And that's going to be my paintbrush for most of the trees. All right?
It's triangular shape.
Triangular shape.
Is that gonna show up in your next class? Next year. Next year.
All right. And also to help create that texture, and you can tell the bottom wasn't dry, right? You can see the little droplets there. Maybe I should try and shield it. Actually, I have a shield somewhere, but we'll just use this towel here. And maybe we'll just use this. There we go. So I'm going to spatter some water in this guy, and try and spatter your neighbor when you do this too.
Oh, this is why you had to dry this guy.
This is why this guy had to be bone dry, or else I'd have all kinds of blossoms and blooms and stuff. You can also use your hand to spatter, and then it's easier to get your neighbor with the hand.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Trees are gonna paint themselves.
Yeah, I don't like to do any work. If I wanted to do WORK, then I would probably paint in acrylics or oils or something crazy like that. But I like to have fun, so I paint in watercolors. Now I got like half my audience that just lost. All right, now I like oils and acrylics too, but watercolor is much more fun.
It's amazing how much it's spraying.
I'm going crazy.
And that's a heavy duty sprayer. It's got a wide.
This sprayer, if I gun it, it'll mist, and if I just tap the trigger, it sends out droplets. I sell these for $60, or you can get it for $1 at your local store. It's magic spray bottle. Question?
No.
Thought I heard a question over there. All right. All right, it's time for the trees. I want the trees to fade off into the mist, right? So I'm going to wet the bottom so that I can create that last edge. We know, I'm sure Karlyn's taught you all about how water is going to follow water. So, and not only will water follow water, but we can predict which way the water is going to flow based on what areas or what tools have the most water and what has the least amount of water. Greater moisture always follows less moisture. So I'm making the bottom of my painting damp. So when the greater moisture comes off my brush, it will want to flow into the less moisture, and it'll create that lost edge all effortlessly. I'm going to use, to figure out where I'm going to put my trees. And I also have gravity help me. I have my nice easel, $100 for this easel. Nice roll of packing tape. All right. I am going to shoot some trees up into the sky with my rigger brush and a combination of some ultramarine blue and some Payne's gray. All right, let's see, where should our trees live? How about we put some trees right here, and right there, right there, out there, and there, and there. That looks good. And we'll put some over here. All right, something like that. And as Karlyn said, some of our foliage on our tree is occurring all by itself. It's already, water's following water. The greater moisture is in my paint is following the less moisture of those droplets and is blossoming them out. It's creating the foliage all by itself. Down at the bottom, where I'd wet, we can see that the greater moisture of the paint is flowing the less moisture, and it's creating that lost edge already all by itself. So it's helping me, the water medium itself is helping me create that effect of mist. All right, but we got to help it along a little bit, right? So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to catch some of the bottoms of these here, bring it up with a thirsty brush, a brush that's been wet, it's been dried. Go up here, hit the bottom of that, rough this up a little bit, pull it up. All right, so you're wondering, well, where's the sponge coming in? Where's that $200 sponge? The price went up, it's now $200. Where's that sponge gonna come in place here? All right, let's see, where is the sponge? Somebody stole it. All right, there it is. Okay, I'm wetting my sponge, I'm getting totally sopping wet. And I want a ton of moisture in this sponge, because I want the greater moisture in the sponge to follow the less moisture in the paper and come right off of that sponge. So I wet it, and then I charge it, load it with tons of pigment so that it's ready to just drip off of there. And just like when you use your brush, you typically don't use all the bristles, the whole brush, all right? Similar with the sponge, you're not going to use the whole sponge. A lot of people make this mistake. They use the whole sponge. They kind of think they're doing a stamping project. You're not going to stamp with this. All you're going to use is just use the tip of the sponge, all right? You're going to see the magic happen. Here we go. All right, sponge, you heard. I got the video camera on me. Got to behave. All right, let's do this. So I'll start, I'm right-handed, I like to work left to right. Let's just zigzag the brush, the sponge down the tree trunk, and where it hits the water, isn't that magic?
That's great.
Isn't that nice? And now it's hitting the moisture and it's flowing out, and it's going to create that misty effect.
Well, take good notes. This is Friday afternoon's lesson. Behind our waterfalls.
Let's leave some of that tree trunk. I don't want to have like holiday trees. I want to, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? Leave some of that trunk, that hide and seek here. And let's get some bushes down here.
These are black spruce.
The black spruce, sure. You know what? I've seen some trees on the way up here, and they went up like this. Really cool trees, and they kind of went up at an angle like that. Ooh, that's what we want. I saw trees like this. What kind of pine was that?
That's so good.
That's a white pine. Ooh, those were beautiful. So you can make some white pine, you can make your holiday pines. I'm not even sure what all those pines are called.
And you're still bumping into those little water droplets. That's what's so cool.
Yo, and I've just started with the water droplets. You haven't seen anything.
Oh.
It's gonna get crazy here in a minute. There we go. Look at just the tip is touching. Back and forth. This is done pretty quickly because the paint's drying.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't that nice?
Just thinking you get paid for doing stuff like this. That's always amazing.
You're having too much fun.
I know. Paid for going to a party. I love it.
Yeah, I love painting in watercolor. It's so enjoyable to see all the happy accents, everything. It's so easy. I don't even have to look. Just it's. All right. So we have some mid-ground trees. Put some bushes in there, knock it out a little bit there, and look at the mist effect that's happening all by itself.
Yeah.
Because the greater moisture is following less moisture, and I have gravity kind of helping me out there. All right. Clean off my $500 sponge, and I'll sign it for it'll be $600. Oh. All right. So yeah, all you need to do is get a real cheap sponge from a cleaning sponge. Just cut out a little triangular chunk of it, and maybe pick away at it, get it real irregular, and you got a great tool for painting natural, organic-looking foliage versus something you might get with a brush, as it looks too mechanical, right? See how organic that looks? Just all happens by itself. And let's get it a little crazier. So here I go again, dropping in some more droplets. All right, let's get some. It looks pretty good already, but we could pull in maybe some grasses or something there with my rigger. It looks fine. I am going to get some clean water and just put some brush marks over here and here and here and here. because this is flowing out and I don't want this straight line, right? So I'm gonna pull some color here. Don't worry about that. There's no mistakes, right? All right. All right. There we go. All right.
Oh, this is a true watercolor, you guys.
I like to use a lot of water. I like to start my paintings loose and as crazy as I can. And as it progresses, each stage gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Now look at the fun mist coming through the trees. Look at this mist coming through there. I don't know if you can see that on the screen.
Yeah.
It's all happening all by itself. I didn't, just luck, didn't do anything.
So it's just the water coming.
Water coming through there, carving out its path. All right, I'm going to use that thirsty brush, lift some of that mist up. Get some different values here, lift some of that up. Lift up into the trees there. Isn't that nice?
I just love that edge forming the top of that wave edge. So pretty.
Thank you. If something gets too out of control, just get your tissue, but I love all the blossoms. It's an eagle's nest up there. I don't know. It's gorgeous. It's all right. Let's see. What should we do? Well, we got some waves to create. And again, I want the magic of watercolor to do as much of the work as possible. I can, if I need to, I can carve it out and work on real dry paper, but if I can just suggest the feel of some waves, that would be ideal. All right. And you can do all kinds of great things with this kind of a painting. You could, create a sunset in the back and have the sun blasting through the trees like I showed on one of my other paintings. It's so many possibilities. And you can do layers and layers of these trees and make a little pathway going into the painting. But look at the fun misty effects we have going already. All right, I know time is limited, so I'm going to quick just show you how I would make the suggestion of waves. So what who knows what I'll be doing next year, but right now, what I've been doing is just giving myself a kind of a roadmap of where I want my waves to be. And let's say we got the waves off in the distance are lighter in value and they're closer together. And as the waves come closer, they'll get farther apart, they'll get darker, and we'll have the waves kind of coming off the shore here, like this. So that's just giving me kind of the direction of where my waves are going to be.
That's amazing.
Just, let's see, where's my easel? Here it is. And see all those blossoms you don't want? Oh, isn't that beautiful? Blossoms are awesome. Blossoms are great. And already we got without even doing any work, this already reads as waves, right? You can probably think, oh, okay, I can start to see the waves. It's already starting to read as waves. But let's now add some color or some tone to the trough of the wave. So let's see. Let's start here. And throw in some color here. Off into the distance. Yeah, it gets really dark as it comes forward. I want, the foreground waves to be super dark. Give the illusion of depth. What is going on here? You're crazy. All right. Let's see.
Can you see us in there?
What's that?
That's your good painting.
Oh yeah, that's demo I did at the class.
This is what he's shielding it with.
If there's any questions or comments, or if I'm making a mistake, you want to say, don't do that, you can tell me. I'm open to suggestions.
That is so awesome.
Thank you. All right. Now it's super wet. I mean, this is super alive. Things are just. I usually standing up when I'm painting because I kind of step back and look at it. I'm really close to it. But I think you get the idea of where I'm going with this. I'm trying to just give the impression. This is one I was demonstrating in a class. I haven't finished the birds. Actually, I finished the birds, and then I was re-wetting, and I went through my birds. So I was like, oh, lost my birds. So anyways, but this is the impression I'm trying to go after. And so it takes a few minutes of playing, which it already looks like waves. It's and notice that the water's falling water. It's pulling this color up to give the impression of mist coming up into the trees, all by itself. I'll probably ruin it, but well, what do you think? I think for a demonstration, I think what I'd have to do now is that I have to kind of sit and wait, right? Because I have to. It's so wet that I have to continue playing with it and charging it with darks. And I also will take a thirsty brush, a brush that's been wet and then dried, and I'll go in and I'm losing my trough in this area, and I'll lift out some color to see how it's lifting out. But it's so wet, it's flowing right back in again. So it's a matter of kind of sitting and watching, and I can't help but grab some more water and create more texture and just playing, just having fun. But I think you can see kind of where this is heading. Well, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you give this a try at home on your own. And thank you, Karlyn, so much for having me come in here. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'm thrilled. I think it was.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
some.
he did that half an hour.
Oh, so I got another hour. We could still put the sunbeams coming through there. If we dry it, you want me to do the birch tree? I can put a birch in here. Put some birch trees in here.
Yeah.
You got it? Oh, we got to dry it up. Okay, I'd continue playing with this, but we'll dry it up and we'll put some birch trees in here. So, again, I lost all my waves because if I was in the studio and I had more time, I would have spent more time kind of playing with it, adding color, throwing water, lifting out some colors. But it gives the impression. And I just want to show you the process. So now I'm going to show you the process of how I create birch trees. And again, if your painting's not working out too hot, you just put birch trees across the whole thing. You won't see anything. It just corrects everything. All right, I'm going to put a birch tree about this large. And let's see, I got a knife around here somewhere. Okay, so we're gonna slap a birch tree, pretend there's an island up in the foreground, we'll put one like, what do I wanna hide? Right in the middle, no, we'll put her over on the side here. All right, I'm taking my packing tape, and I'm very gently just gonna cut it in half, and maybe not perfectly straight. Make our birch a little interesting. And we'll take up part of that. Put it right about here. We'll take the other half and put it right about here. And in between those two pieces of tape is what?
Your birch tree.
A birch tree.
I couldn't figure out what you were going to do.
Oh, she was ready to, it's like, cut, we're gonna get this guy off the camera, he's wasting our film. But now she's.
One straight in.
This is great.
Okay, and then you said you had some magic erasers, right? Or
Right in the corner. There you go.
oh, fantastic. Okay, is it all right if I?
And then
Is it all right if I use one?
Just some clean water. Absolutely.
This
You
is
can use
clean.
my
Are you
water.
kidding?
that is clean.
This is clean as I never have it this clean.
Oh my God.
This is looking clean to me. Look at that.
his water.
Look at, I can still see my fingers when I put it in the water. That's pretty clean. Okay. And we'll get some tissue ready. So what I'm going to do is take and there's different brands, but this is a Mr. Clean, but there's other, like Scotch has a brand, but it's kind of a sponge that has kind of a sandpapery type texture to it. And I'm going to lift up this color here, in between here. All right. Good enough. Now maybe one more. There we go. All right. Don't want to spend too much time on that. The water does end up kind of leaking underneath there. So there is going to be our birch. I know it looks a little odd right now, so we're going to fix that birch up here in a minute. Set that aside. And unfortunately, I do need to dry this again a little bit because some of the water went underneath, and if I start painting the birch, the water is going to pull that pigment out, and then my tree's going to look really funny. So I have to dry the birch. All right, back. All right, so we figured out where our trunk's going to be. Now the birch has all this beautiful texture that runs up and down, and so let's add some of that texture. I'm going to, kind of like when I threw water onto the canvas, I'm going to drop water. Yeah, if my board's not in place, you guys just yell at me and say, hey, move the board up. Pay attention to what you're doing. All right, so I'm putting some water droplets up the trunk here. And just like our trees that we pulled up into the sky, I'm going to paint, well, since we got some red in our sky, I don't know, it'd look a little odd to have all this color on this side. Oh well, we could add some more color on that side later if we want to. But maybe I'll drop a little bit of color in here. And I'm just letting my rigger brush skip around. And I've got, I don't know, some burnt sienna, some brown madder, some blizzard and crimson mix on this. Just a little bit of color. All right, now let's go back to our colors we've been using earlier, which is the ultramarine blue, Payne's gray, drop that down the trunk. No one's talking, so I'm going to start humming. You don't want to hear me singing, so you better start throwing out some questions. All right, so, and then I might soften up some of those.
Looks great.
I don't want to leave like a white edge. I want it to look like it's wrapping around the tree and help to give the illusion that we have a, a cylinder type shape. So, hit the edge there a little bit. There we go. Now in some places it's nice where it hit the water droplets or the damp paper and it pulled out and it got some soft edges. So I'm looking for a variety of edge qualities. Some lost edges, hard edges, soft edges. All right. Well, we're not done creating texture, but that's the first stage. Now we got to create some branches. I'm going to use the palette knife.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And last Saturday when I did my workshop, I was demonstrating, and the branches didn't flow off as well as I wanted to, and so I kind of learned something right there that you can't have too thick a paint. So we'll see what happens. I'll give it a shot. Hopefully, since I'm on camera, it'll behave and make me look good. We'll see. All right. So got a lot of pigment on there, and it's as easy as this.
Oh, it's the only way.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Huh? Simple as that.
Yeah.
Zigzagging back and forth. What do you think?
I think that's great.
Thank you.
Very nice. It sure brings it into the foreground fast.
Yeah.
Just
So that is how I would create birch trees. There's one more thing I do to create texture, and that is I actually take a razor blade or a palette knife and I kind of scrape out some texture, but again, I have to dry it again. Actually, if it's actually would have been left it damp, you can actually use your palette knife to scrape in some texture. I'm not sure if it'll work or not. Yeah, it's still pretty damp. Anyways, you can kind of
Oh, I see, yeah.
pull it back and forth and scrape out some there, scrape out some there. Let's see. Again, helping get some different edge quality and the feel of the texture of those birch. They're so beautiful in Minnesota, Wisconsin. And then use a utility knife or razor blade, and it makes it. If I went really dark with my painting, and I take this and I make my birch dark, and I pick away, it just really dramatic. It pulls out some real, you're picking away the paper, so it makes a real bright white. It's not very dramatic now because it's not, it's pretty light, and the paper's still pretty damp, but you can get the idea how it picks away the white, and again, it gives the impression of more texture. And so I just work up and down, picking away with a razor blade. All right, and that's how I would create birch trees.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
thanks again. A lot of fun.
Very cool.
That is really nice.
Now, if you were going to finish this painting, so far, your major interest is on the left-hand side. So I think I would feel like there needs to be a balance somewhere in there.
Yeah. I was just demonstrating different techniques. Yeah, this is way off balance, and I got some color over here, and there's no color over here. So compositionally, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. I'd probably put like 2 birch, over here, close to the edge. Put some geese into here, or a kayak or canoe or something, and that would look like a nice painting. Yeah. So it needs some more work. Yeah, definitely. Good call.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of fun.